Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Travelogue series hosted by Norway House and Borton Overseas. I'm Bonnie Boisner, and I'm the president of Borton Overseas, and we're a leading Midwest tour operator based right here in Minneapolis, and we specialize in travel to the Nordic countries. This is a third of a three-part webinar series in travel topics around this area of the world. So we're so happy that you're interested and are here tonight. For those of you who were not with us on Series 1 or 2, Series 1 focused on travel to Norway. Series 2 highlighted pairing other Nordic countries with that Norway trip. These are both on the Norway House YouTube channel if you want to take a look at them. Now tonight, in this last series, we will focus on the post-COVID travel and what to expect and what trends are we seeing as a result of this COVID world we've been living in over the past year. You know, honestly, it was our hopes that by the date of this last webinar that we would be able to share with you specifics on each Nordic country and what they required for entry. But unfortunately, most of this part of the world is still closed with one exception, Iceland. Iceland just opened on March 18th last week to vaccinated travelers. So tonight, instead of sharing all those specific opening requirements that we don't quite have yet, we're going to be focusing on the new trends resulting from the pandemic and giving you ideas that support these trends and for things that you can consider when planning a journey to any of the Nordic countries once they open. So let's start with the current status of the world travel. This map illustrates the opening status of the countries. Red is completely closed, pink is partially open with a lot of restrictions and mostly quarantine restrictions upon arrival. Yellow is opening soon, and green is without quarantine, but as long as you meet the entry requirements. As you can see by this map, most countries still have a whole lot of restrictions, and we were hoping to see a lot more green. But the fact remains, you know, the second and third waves of the pandemic have just taken their toll on everybody and our wanderlust and need to get back out into the world to travel. And we're having to be patient. So as countries do begin to open, the first major component of international travel is that airline flight to get you where you're going. And things have evolved there. But your number one priority is really to make sure you know what the entry requirements are for the country you are visiting. You know, most have a first entry requirement of a negative COVID test within a certain time period before you arrive in that country, and it varies by destination. But you also need to pay attention to what type of test is required. Is it the rapid test or is it a PCR test where the turnaround time is a little bit longer? And also, as we see some countries opening up and accepting a proof of recent recovery document, you know, the details in that document you need to make sure you know what they are so you can have your medical provider document what is needed specifically for that country. And something else that we're keeping a close eye on as the vaccinations roll out are these digital health verification programs. You know, most are in development, they're in testing, they vary by country. Some people call them vaccination passports, others call them health passports, others call them travel passes. But each destination is doing something different, but it's getting a lot of attention. So we're keeping an eye on that, and it's our hope that we will come up, you know, with one way to document all the requirements and be able to prove that along your travels. So currently, also to return to the U.S. before you can board your flight home, you need a negative viral test done within 3 days of your return. So you have to make sure you know where you're going to get that done in the country that you're in and the time period that it takes to get it done and get your results, and to make sure that that type of test is available. And also the same with the proof of recovery. You'll need that to get in if that's what you have. So the airlines must confirm either that negative test result or the proof of recent recovery, so you got to be able to prove it. Otherwise, you're going to be denied boarding. You know, just generally, as that list of countries allowing vaccinated travelers to come in, as that grows, you can sure bet that having that vaccine and that proof are going to make your travels a whole lot easier and hassle-free in the future. So yes, COVID-19 has really redefined travel worldwide, but as we slowly take those first steps into getting back out in the world, let's take a look at how travel experiences that people are seeking are changing due to the pandemic. People are looking for different things today than they did pre-COVID. The trends now, number one trend, safety takes precedence. Travelers are choosing options that are health conscious and that are safe. They want touchless travel in those experiences, from document verifications to check-ins to entrance passes and even restaurant menus, which we've all seen around here. The world is turning touchless even outside the US. And after months of cabin fever, there's a universal hunger for wide open spaces, away from the crowds, and where distancing from people you don't know is easy. People are staying longer in these wide open spaces too. After a year of not going anywhere, they're staying longer. The most are opting for 2, 3, some even longer stays. They've been working remote for so long that they know they can do it if something comes up back home that they have to address for work. So longer stays are also trending. There's a renewed focus on wanting to be in nature and the wilderness too, and this sure is understandable. The fresh air is plenty, and these types of experiences allow for intimate connections with the environment. Travelers have also become more interested in destinations that are off the beaten path, yet still filled with unique and new experiences, but they're away from the usual tourist crowds. And this is actually going to spread people out and will alleviate some of the pressures that come with peak tourist season in traditional tourist areas. And focus is also shifting to small group tours and self-guided tours. With small group tours, it's easy to practice social distancing, and the risk of exposure to anything is also less when compared to the standard group tours of pre-COVID days of 40 to 50 to 60 people. They're very small now. And there's also a big rise in rural expected in 21 and beyond. Cabin rental interest is just climbing. And with that comes smaller town areas. And these smaller towns allow for better connecting with the local community and the culture, which has been a growing trend for quite some time now. But you put COVID and cabins on top of it, and that trend we are seeing more and more of. And lastly, travel insurance. Boy, COVID-19 pandemic has brought to the forefront the importance of travel insurance. Many travelers without it last year fell victim to losses. So choosing the right insurance coverage and becoming more, knowledgeable on what is covered and what isn't covered is going to be critical in a post-COVID world. Options may change too. Just like after 9/11, when that led to the inclusion of terrorism coverage in insurance policies, I can imagine that this COVID crisis will most likely result in different inclusion options of pandemic coverage. So we'll probably be seeing some changes in insurance as well. So those are some of the general post-COVID travel trends we are seeing in the travel industry right now. But you're all here tonight because of your shared interest in the Nordic region. And the great news is that these countries are prime for travel opportunities that support and follow the trends that we just went through. So now I would like to hand it over to Lucas Sherritt. Lucas is a Scandinavia specialist on Borton Overseas, and he's lived in Norway. He's traveled all over the Nordic countries and has firsthand knowledge of the best ways to experience these wonderful countries. And he'll talk about some of these travel trends and ideas for you to experience it. So with that, I'll turn it over to Lucas.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. Hi, everyone. My name is Lucas Sherritt, and I am a Scandinavia specialist with Borton Overseas. I've been with the company since about 2015, and my anniversary was actually earlier this week. Tonight, I'll be sharing some travel ideas with you. But with this travelogue, as opposed to some other ones that we've done, we will actually be weaving in some fun trivia along the way. Throughout this presentation, we will break for a trivia question about the region. When I do ask the question, a poll window will appear on your screen. When that happens, simply select one of the 4 options that you believe is correct, and after, we'll see what everyone knows about Scandinavia. But with that, let's begin with some basics. With those trends that Bonnie spoke of, there are two main aspects of travel to consider and fit well in any Nordic country, and those are outdoor adventures and self-drives, both of which will take you into wide open spaces, nature, wilderness, off the beaten path places, all across Northern Europe. All of these countries offer plenty of activities outside in the fresh air, which is what we're all wanting now. Some of the most popular options are hiking, biking, kayaking, and canoeing. And in terms of a self-drive, basically that means you have a rental car and the ability to explore places independently at your own pace. You can include a range of pre-booked excursions and activities, be them private, small group, or shared, allowing for that really in-depth and guided, knowledgeable experience. But now let's take a look at each country and talk about specific examples of travel in a COVID-conscious world. First up, we have Iceland. Iceland, as Bonnie said, recently announced that they are open to travelers. This is really exciting news for a lot of people who are really desperate to travel right now. And not to mention that history that was just made earlier this week with that volcanic eruption just adds to sort of the grandeur of the entire country. For the past year, travel writers have been monitoring and divining future travel trends for travelers in this post-COVID world. And this country keeps coming up on top, given its unique natural landscapes, emphasis on independent travel, and wide open spaces. It is no wonder why this country is hot again, with no pun intended. In our last travelogue, though, we talked about the golden circle, but there is another circle that offers just as much, the diamond circle. Located in the far north of Iceland, this 162-mile selection of road connects you to some of the country's most famed attractions, such as Goðafoss Falls, Lake Mývatn, Aspergy Canyon, and of course, one of Europe's most powerful waterfalls, Dettifoss. There are also numerous quaint harbor towns like Húsavík, which is ideal for whale watching, and popular Netflix movies starring Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams. Iceland also offers unique farm and guest house accommodations, particularly in the eastern part of the country. These bed and breakfast style lodgings are often found on farms and more often with horses, and provide an authentic Icelandic experience for any traveler. But with that, let's move on to our very first trivia of the night. So a screen will appear, a smaller window will appear on your screen with the question and the potential answers. So the question is, Iceland is known as the land of fire and ice, mountains and sea, elves and volcanoes, or the land of horses and stone. So simply select which one you think is correct, and we'll see the answer after. And no Googling. Do this from memory if you can. Great, and the results are fantastic. Almost 100% of you got fire and ice. That is correct. And although elves and volcanoes are definitely an aspect of Icelandic culture and geography, Iceland is primarily known as the land of fire and ice. And given the eruption, it definitely has earned that name. But now from Iceland, let's move on to Norway, the land of the fjords. Norway is by far one of the most popular destinations to visit. It has mountains, rivers, forests, and of course, fjords. It also boasts a really strong public transportation system for those wanting to weave in a train ride or two. The Norwegians have truly embraced the term every person's right, which focuses on accessible access to nature. With that, the fjords of Norway are primarily found in the western part of the country, as you can see on the map. This area is called Vestland by the locals and is ideal for the traveler wanting an authentic experience. In fact, many of the paintings of Norway took inspiration from this part of the country. And my background is in Bergen, one of the largest cities in Norway, and many times considered to be the capital of the West. But within Vestland, there is one town called Balestrand, located right on the Sognefjord, as indicated by the red dot on the map. It is an iconic community that has inspired painters and artists for centuries, as well as hosting old European aristocracy. Because of this long tradition of hospitality and artistry, there are many historic hotels and properties perfect for you to rest your head at. One such hotel is called Kviknes, and it has been around for over 100 years. It offers a unique blend of Swiss-style architecture and old Scandinavian woodwork, and has enchanted visitors for decades. There are hiking trails in its backyard, as well as shops, restaurants, and a famous cidery known for their hard ciders and juices all over Norway. While many fjord towns are popular, this one is particularly special for me because when I first joined Borton Overseas all those years ago, I visited this hotel. Its heritage, friendly staff, and fame are sure to charm you as it did me. But for those who want a little more active in their adventure, there is the famous biking trail called Rollerveien. We're going to show you a short video highlighting what this trail truly is about. So from the mountain village of Finse, one can bike about 7 hours through the woods around bends, ending in the town of Flom, another well-known fjord community. And for those who want to experience a bit of the Rollerveien, there's also a shorter option, such as from Myrdal to Flom, which is only about 2 hours. Like with Balestrand, Flom is home to a unique collection of hotel properties. But for those wanting something more modern, there is always the Flomsberga Hotel, a unique lodge known for its brewery. But for those who want a really truly off the beaten path option for Norway, there are the Lofoten Islands, as indicated on the map, way in the far north. There is a chain of islands. This chain of islands is iconic to Norway and has a long and rich history, from the Iron Age people to Viking settlements, to the current robust hospitality and fishing communities. The Lofoten Islands have engaged people with its beauty and wilderness for centuries. It is a perfect destination for a self-drive. Basically, you arrive via the Svolvær airport, and from there, drive through the various islands on bridges and the like, exploring ancient sites and majestic rocky beaches. And given the area's heritage of fishing, many of the old fishing cabins have now been converted into boutique hotel accommodations, providing this really interesting and unique level of comfort. This part of northern Norway is also perfect for hiking, seeing wildlife, tons of boating activities like exploring the rocks on a rib boat, or even visiting the new Lofoter Viking Museum. But with all of that said, we have talked a lot about active and outdoor experiences. So for those of you who maybe want a little bit more of a relaxing experience, I recommend you travel south, about 2.5 hours south of Oslo. There lies a collection of seaside towns, one of which is called Kragerø. Famed Norwegian painter Edvard Munch called it the pearl of the coastal towns. This community is known for its clear blue waters and beautiful scenery. Quaint shops and cafes, cobbled streets, this area is a perfect spot for anyone wanting to slow down the pace and smell not just the roses, but the fresh sea air as well. Norway is iconic and will continue to be iconic given its wide range of options, one-of-a-kind experiences, and of course, unparalleled grandeur. But now let's move on to our Norway trivia for the night. The current king of Norway's first name is Håkon, Bjorn, Harold, or Eric. So like before, simply click on the answer you think is correct, and we'll see the results after. Lots of royalty to think about for this one. So let's see which one's right. So the current king of Norway's first name is All right, so about 85% of you did Harold. Harold is correct. Now, 12% of you, though, did Håkon, which is sort of correct. That's the current crown prince's name, while Harold is the king's name. So eventually it will be King Håkon. But of course, now that we can move on from Norway, we can't forget about our friends to the south, in Denmark. While cities like Copenhagen and Odense are fantastic places to see and experience, there is one area of Denmark not known by many outside of the country, and that's Skagen. Located in the very far north of the country, this off the beaten path town boasts charming beaches, museums, and harborside restaurants. Its wide open beaches are normally not what you expect in a Nordic country. In fact, the very tip, Grenland, is the meeting of two seas, Skagerrak and Kattegat. It is the perfect location for those wanting to drive up and simply relax along the beach. And after, why not explore those cobbled streets of the local town and stay in one of its boutique hotels? But for the real Danish experience, my recommendation is to pick up a bike at least once, regardless of wherever you are. So now let's move on to our Denmark trivia of the night. Denmark is known for which writer? The Grimm brothers, Astrid Lindgren, Hans Christian Andersen, or Hugh Nesbø? One of these writers is Danish and the rest may or may not be Scandinavian. If you think you know the answer, just click it on and then do submit. All right, let's see the results for that trivia poll. All right, yes, 95% of you did Hans Christian Andersen. That is correct. He was a Danish author who wrote many fairy tales such as Little Mermaid and the Matchstick Girl. And Astrid Lindgren is actually Swedish and she wrote Pippi Longstocking. So close, but not exact. But of course, after Denmark, we can't forget about our Swedish cousins across the sea. While no one can deny the urbane quality of the Swedes, no one can equally deny the pastoral beauty of the country. There are plenty of ways to get away from the crowds and experience Sweden's beauty following these post-COVID trends. Within Sweden, there is an area called Småland, as indicated on the map, which is basically a collection of counties throughout the entire southern part. Its rustic nature boasts wide open spaces through forests and pastures. It is a perfect area for discovering via self-drive. We even featured glassblowing and the famous Costa Boda factory in our last travelogue, and it remains one of the highlights of the area. For many centuries as well, Sweden was the ruling kingdom throughout all of Northern Europe. Because of this, there are many castles and manor houses throughout the country, many of which have been turned into these boutique hotels and bed and breakfast style accommodations. These are all one-of-a-kind, authentic lodgings that are sure to enhance any holiday, because who doesn't want to sleep like royalty? But don't think you have to leave the capital of Stockholm for any wilderness adventures. Stockholm, the capital, is actually located within an archipelago, providing ample opportunities for kayaking, boat tours, fishing guides, and all the like, which are readily available for those wanting to mix some urban with that wild. With Sweden, our trivia question is, the color of Sweden's flags are red and white, yellow and blue, green and white, or orange and white? If any of you are familiar with IKEA, this might be an indicator of what those colors are. All right, after we've submitted, let's see the results. Yes, 96% of you did yellow and blue. That is correct. All of the Scandinavian flags are the same, I guess, style, but they're all different colors, and Sweden's is yellow and blue. And lastly for tonight, we'll end with the Finns. Finland, or as they say in Finnish, Suomi, offers so many ways to connect to nature's finest. It has a rich history, from governance by the ancient Finns to Swedish kings, and even the Russian Empire not too long ago. Finland is a country with deep cultural roots, which is very apropos given their extensive and deep forests. Located in the eastern part of the country is what Finns call Lakeland, aptly named for its numerous lakes. Finland has about 188,000 lakes, many of which are located in Lakeland, surprisingly. Water activities are endless and is an ideal haven for those who enjoy hiking, fishing, boating, cabin life, all of that, either in small or also, which can be done privately or in a small group, including wildlife safaris. From there, you can explore the countryside with a guide, looking for animals such as moose, lynxes, great gray owls, which happen to be my favorite, and hopefully the brown bear, a cultural symbol of Finland. And for those who don't want to stray too far from Helsinki, the capital, there is Nuuksio National Park, only about an hour away. This allows you to blend in some forest-day adventures with that famous Helsinki nightlife. Finland, though, is more than just lakes and forests. There's an archipelago called the Åland Islands, and they're just a ferry ride away. These islands are just under about 7,000, and they are an autonomous region of Finland and are entirely Swedish speaking. These islands are a perfect spot to sit back and enjoy Scandinavian island life. Its capital, Mariehamn, is a city populated by wooded houses and pleasant cafes, along with historical churches, which are very fitting for the overall destination. Activity options are plentiful with golf, boating, water sports, and even more to see all across the islands. Finland is very much on the rise in terms of tourism. Its unique culture, history, and language with an almost like mythic landscape is an excellent choice for anyone's holiday. And now we'll end the night with our last trivia for Finland. Which are the two official languages of Finland? Finnish and English, Finnish and Russian, Finnish and Swedish, or is it Finnish and German? As before, select the answer and we'll see what people say. And yes, there are two. All right, now let's see what the results are for that poll, our last one of the evening. All right, wow, okay, so half of you said Finnish and Swedish, which is correct. The two official languages are Finnish and Swedish. While English is widely spoken, it is not an official language, and Russian, though, is also widely spoken given its proximity, but it is not an official language of the whole country. But good idea, but good guesses, guys. Now, this evening, we have talked about only a handful of Nordic options, experiences, and things to do and see. There are so many more depending on your specific interests and desires. I hope that this at least gives you some ideas to plan for your post-COVID journey as the world reopens and Scandinavia is ready to welcome you all. And with that, I'll pass it back to Bonnie. Whenever you're ready, Bonnie. Just don't forget to unmute.
Okay, wow, thank you for that reminder. Wow, great ideas. Lucas, great job. You covered a whole lot in a really short period of time, so well done. You know, the Nordic regions have just such a smorgasbord of opportunities, you know, for things to do supporting these post-COVID travel trends. So we hope we've given you great ideas, you know, even if your country's not open yet that you want to see, the time to plan is now. So I hope those juices are flowing and we've armed you with some great ideas. So I think with that, we'll open it up for question and answer. We've got a few more minutes here, and I think Max will be joining us as well.
Yes, hello, hi there. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. Hello, hi, welcome. Well, I absolutely, what I loved about this presentation was the heavy focus on outdoors activities, because I know we all want to be outdoors. And, you know, I lived in Finland for a year, and so it was really exciting to see pictures of the Lakeland area, you know, places that I visited. You know, in my last you know, Q&A for the Travelogue series, I mentioned some of my favorite places to dine, including that little harbor in downtown Helsinki, which has, you know, cute, quaint coffee and pulla, as we like to call the cardamom pearl sugar buns. So thank you for that. I do see some questions coming in here. So I think I'll kind of start with the first one for the evening, which is for Lucas, I think. What is your favorite food and restaurant in Norway, since you lived in Norway for a while?
Yeah, so I would say, given some of the areas that we've talked about today, in Balestrand, besides the Hotel Kviknes, which is like world known for their buffet style dinners, there's also a place in town called Vikingtreff, which means like Viking meeting. And it's like a burger fry kind of Shake Shack local restaurant right on the water. And it's like a fun kind of casual place to go to after a day of sort of exploring the area. But it's very much sort of that local restaurant for the community.
You gotta love a burger after a hard day.
And
being
thick
active
cut fries
outside.
too, like their fries thick. So.
Oh, good. So, well, I was going to say too, and for those of you folks who are just joining us, thank you so much for joining us together with Borton Overseas for their final part in their travelogue series. We're going to miss this. It's been so much fun to learn all about the different travel opportunities and places you can visit and things to do. So for those of you who would like to ask a question, if you just hover on the bottom of your screen, or if you're on a mobile device, you can tap the screen and a bar should pop up on the bottom. And there is a Q&A button, which you can just type your question in there, and then I'll get it here so I can ask Lucas or Bonnie. But here I've got another question. Another one for you, Lucas. Any additional tips on visiting Bergen?
Tips for visiting Bergen. I would say, although Bergen, you might think of sort of a smaller city compared to maybe from an American perspective, I would say try and add as much time as you possibly can. There is so much to see. There are great mountains all around the Seven Sisters. There's great shopping. You may think it's a small city, but once you get there, there's going to be a lot more to see and do than you kind of expect. So I would definitely say plan a little bit more time in Bergen, just so you leave really feeling like you've experienced the community.
Okay, all right. Well, and I got to ask about Iceland too with food, because they've been in the news a lot recently, especially with their volcano. I mean, how funny is it that they finally opened to vaccinated U.S. travelers, and then right as it happens, a volcano erupts. I've been following all the all the earthquakes that have been happening. When I was in Iceland, I was able to actually visit with a friend over there, and she and her partner posted a photograph of themselves. I mean, no more than like 100 or so feet in front of a volcano that was spewing, a small one that was spewing lava. And she had to reassure everyone that there were scientists and everyone there appropriate to make sure they weren't in front of the large one, of course, but
well, if you look at some social media now, you see roads are just like heavy traffic as people are trying to go to the volcano. So they're having to have like road people to like direct traffic, because there's so many people wanting to safely, hopefully, sort of see more Iceland being created, which I think is kind of an amusing thought. People driving to an active volcano as opposed to driving away from an active volcano.
I know when I was there, they had to post specific warnings telling people not to go to certain locations, because some of the roads are just simply rocky roads, not even roads at all, in fact. And too often you have tourists who get themselves lost because there might be a snow in or a flood.
Yes.
So it's really good to be safe, and I mean, that being said, there's huge safety protocols, and you can speak to, I'm sure, about, but I gotta say, if you haven't been to Iceland, it is one of my favorite places. It is, as I like to say, probably as close to like the moon as you might be able to get, maybe other than Antarctica.
Yeah. And it's interesting because Iceland is so different from the other Nordic countries that you can go to Iceland and then you go to Finland, and they're so polar opposites in terms of like the geography and sort of the topography of them. So really being able to sort of experience both gives you sort of the range and the variety that Northern Europe has to offer.
And such a cool history too, about just pagan culture to the first Vikings settling. But I will say this, plan on paying at least $30 for a cocktail if you go there, because they have to import all the alcohol. And that was one of the shockers that I
yes, island life can be costly. Island life can be costly.
Well, good. Well, I know now that, of course, vaccinations are on all of our minds. And if you're tuning in from Minnesota here, you may have recently seen that starting next Tuesday, all Minnesotans age 16 and above can get vaccinated. Yay! I am so excited. Partly because we can maybe travel again safely. So if I'm vaccinated, do I still need to do the COVID test before my trip to the US?
I'll take that one.
Yeah.
So right now, as countries open up, this is actually all over. As countries are starting to open up, as I said in my first part, some countries are accepting vaccination certifications and proofs to allow you in. But until the US changes, you still need to get that negative viral test within 3 days before your return. Regardless if you didn't have to get it on the way in right now, and until the US changes that, you still, vaccinated or not, need to get it in your destination.
You know what? I'll take it. If I can travel soon, I'll take any hurdles I can.
Right.
Well, great. Looks like we have some more questions coming in here now. A question for both of you here. Are you taking meetings in person as of now to assist with trip planning, or is everything still virtual?
No, I can take that one too. You know, it all depends on the person who wants to come see us. You know, we've got an office set up that has social distancing, that we, you know, regularly cleanse, and we are taking in-person meetings. So just, you know, reach out to whoever you're working with, or send us an email through either our website or the information or the email that you have on here. And we're happy to meet with you in person. We probably would start with a phone call to make sure that we can collect all the information so that that in-person meeting can be as productive as possible. So yes, we are.
Great. Okay. Well, and you know what? I'm just going to put both of your emails here for everyone. So the first one is Bonnie at bortonoverseas.com and Lucas at bortonoverseas.com. So yeah, please reach out, as you heard them say, to them to schedule an in-person, hybrid, or virtual visit to discuss your next adventure. Yeah.
A lot of options.
And so I will just chime in with that as well, that if you're not local to the area, we work with clients from all over the North America. So we're completely comfortable doing things all by phone and by email as well. So don't feel like you have to be in person if you're not in the Twin Cities area. So
yeah.
Great. Well, good to know. Well, I know this next question here is one that comes up quite often, especially with the Nordics, because we know they are very expensive. But they've heard that Norway is very expensive to visit. What would common lodging and dining costs be in the US? In US dollars, excuse me.
It's very varied, because, you know, if you go to maybe a 5-star restaurant in New York City, as opposed to the diner down the street in Chicago, there are two sort of very different pricing with that. I would say though that a sort of standard 3-ish star hotel, anywhere from $250 to $350 a night. Meals is hard, because once you start adding in, as Max mentioned, alcohol, things like that, it can get a little bit pricier. At some of the places that I've eaten at, especially in Oslo, for example, some of those larger cities, anywhere from maybe 45 to 60 US dollars per person, depending though, kind of what your tastes are. But there are lots of ways to eat authentically and sort of eat locally that aren't maybe at a restaurant, or maybe won't really punch your wallet in the end. So like grocery stores and things like that are great ways to sort of get a snack or a drink that's a little bit more affordable.
Yeah, I know. I mean, when I was over in Oslo, and so unfortunately I haven't been to the rest of Norway, so I need to plan my trip with you folks to get to the rest, because my family is originally from Voss, so I need to get up to the Bergen-Voss region. But when I was there, you could simply get a cheap hot dog, you know, by going to one of the, you know, the gas stations or the little the markets. But one of my favorite places to eat too was the Grand Cafe. Is that correct?
Yep, the Grand Cafe, which was attached to the Grand Hotel.
Yes, which is one of my, I felt like a bohemian when I was there, because that's where Munch, Grieg, and Ibsen all convened and artistically created together. So I kind of, you know, felt fancy and artistic and fun, and I had the spirit of creativity came over me when I was there. So I highly recommend that place. And what I was going to say too is that when I had a dinner there, it was like $30 just for myself. So, I mean, it wasn't as bad as I thought it might have been, but maybe just a little bit more expensive depending. So there we are. We'll take a couple more questions here as we're kind of wrapping up, but another one here on vaccine passports. Is there any information currently about EU vaccination passports, or is that yet to come?
That's yet to come. They've all got little different programs in development, and some of them are using them, but they're all different. So it's really going to be focused on the country that you want to go to. So we can help you find that out. You can do we can do your homework for you. We're happy to help in any of these if you want to give us a call. But they're all really different right now. And there's a couple, airlines are testing them with different providers.
Okay.
We are hoping actually that IATA, which is the International Airline Transport Association, they're working on one. And that's kind of a worldwide governing airline transportation association. They're working on one, and we're hoping that that's the one that is going to be standardized worldwide. But right now it's in the air. Everybody's doing their own thing.
Great. Well, I'll be excited to hear more, and I'm sure that once you know, you'll share it with us at Norway House, and we'd be happy to post this information out to everybody. So, and again, everyone, we will kind of, if there's left, questions that we didn't answer tonight, or other questions, we'll kind of send these out to everyone who participated today, and we'll also be posting this webinar as well as the 2 other programs you can find on Norway House's YouTube page on youtube.com. So I think I'll end with one more question. And then we'll kind of wrap up for the night. But that's the last one I have here is, do you have to have an international driver's license to rent a car? Because we talked a lot about these self-drives.
You actually don't have to have an international license. You're more than welcome to go through that on your own, but you don't need one. Generally, on an American passport, you can enter any of the northern countries for about 3 months on a tourist sort of pass, if you will, and your American license does operate there, but you are, of course, sort of bound to the in-country's rules and sort of road laws and things like that. So, sort of be aware of that when you drive, but your American license does work within those countries. I will say though as well that generally when you pick up a car for a self-drive, whoever will be driving has to be present. This has caused some sort of hiccups throughout the time in case person 1 wants to drive and then person 2 wants to drive, but person 2 isn't there. So anyone who wants to drive needs to be present for them to sort of get their information, but your American license is completely acceptable. If you can drive here, you can drive there. So.
And I'll say too, when I was in Iceland, it was very easy to rent a car and to drive around there. So
it is.
No worries there. Well, great. Well, it's sad to say that this is the final program here, but I've had so much fun chatting with you, Bonnie, and Lucas tonight, and of course we have the rest of the Borton team kind of chime in with some of the earlier programs. But this has been really lovely, and I'm hoping we can do another one in the future, perhaps as more information comes out and things calm down a little bit with COVID, and we'll all be traveling again. So with that, again, I suppose my name is Max Stevenson. I'm Director of Exhibitions Programs at Norway House. I always forget to introduce myself. It must be that Norwegianness in me. But thank you everybody so much for chiming in tonight. And thank you again for Borton Overseas for partnering with us on this fun and informative travelogue series. And we'll look forward to having another one in the near future. So with that, have a great evening, everyone. And thanks again. And Bonnie, was there anything you wanted to end with at all? I
just wanted to, give our thanks to you, Max, for all this arranging you've done, and to thank everybody who's joined us online for the past, the 3 months that we've been doing this. It's been a lot of fun, and we really hope that we've provided some good information for you. And, we're always here to help. We've been around for 100+ years. And we're here to help if anybody has any questions or follow-up things from these. You know where to find us with our website or our emails, and we hope to hear from you. So thanks for letting us join you, Max. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
All right.
Have a wonderful night, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Nice to talk.
See ya.